Hello. I'm recording this video in the days between the Christmas and New Year celebrations, so that the subject of food and feasting in Narnia seems quite fitting. And by the end of it, I think it reveals a kind of spirituality of food in C.S. Lewis. He obviously relished his grub, and you can see that in all his descriptions of eating and feasting. He gives us some extravagant royal meals and great victory banquets, but I think closest to his heart is more homely fare, like Mrs. Beaver's sticky marmalade roll, or Mr. Tumnus's variations on toast, when he has Lucy to tea in The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. Sardines on toast, buttered toast, toast with honey. Toast is a revelation to Shasta, too, in The Horse and His Boy, when he's given the slices of brown stuff and the yellow soft thing they smeared on the toast, served to him by dwarfs when he arrives in Narnia. And it reminds me of Jane in the cosmic novel That Hideous Strength. She's travelling by train in a state of heightened joy, and she rejoiced also, it says, in her hunger and thirst. And it says that because even our hunger and our desire and our anticipation of it being satisfied is a thing to be glad in. And she decides that when she gets home, she will make herself buttered toast for tea, a great deal of buttered toast. The fish dinner and the marmalade roll at the Beaver's cosy little house is a kind of antidote to the privation of the witch's evil enchanted winter. The cold and the snow and the darkness are safely outside. And as they talk about Aslan too at the dinner table, it's like an act of defiance in the middle of a story of war against the powers of darkness. Just as a celebratory meal in this world, with all the joy shared between friends and all its small kindnesses, can be seen as an act of defiance against the evil here too. There's something extremely joyous in Lewis's simple, homely images, like toast for tea. In Prince Caspian, Trumpkin's parcels of bear meat roasted with apple make the children not only more cheerful, but more hopeful in the war against Miraz. You see, a good meal can really change your mood. In The Silver Chair, after the return of Rilian in his right mind to Narnia, there's a chapter called The Healing of Harms, and it begins with having dwarfs with frying pans rather bigger than themselves, providing a great sausage fest for Jill, Eustace and Puddleglum. And it's part of the return to harmony and peace in the land. Some of the great meals in the stories are celebrations of freedom after victory's been won. So at the end of The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, it says how Aslan provided food for them all, I don't know. But somehow or other they found themselves all sitting down on the grass to a fine high tea at about 8 o'clock. And that reminds me of the feeding of the 5,000, especially in the Gospel where Jesus tells them all to sit down on the green grass. And how he provided food for them all, I don't know. The feast on the castle lawn at the end of the Horse and His Boy includes tales and songs sung by the court poets to the accompaniment of fiddles, rather like a banquet from medieval times. And in Prince Caspian, the Telmarines have been defeated with the help of the waking trees. And in a crazy scene that the trees dance, yes, they dance a feast into existence, which is it's extraordinary. It takes over a page to describe it. And it's a magic dance of plenty. It's a sign of abundance of life. This is free Narnia, full of joy and wildness and deep gladness and high-end provender. Afterwards, they all nod off to sleep by the fire with good friends all round. And it says the best thing of all about this feast was that there was no breaking up or going away. Such feasts enact the shared joy. There's such a sense of perfect contentment and safety and goodness together. Wine often features in the merrymaking. In the same story, Prince Caspian, when Aslan heals an old woman who's very close to death, Bacchus turns her well water into strong red wine, upon sipping which the woman leaps out of bed and joins the party. And there are, you might think, shades of Christ's miracle at Cana, turning water into wine, and maybe Eucharistic overtones, as there sometimes are in the Narnian meals. In The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, Lewis draws on fairy tale traditions on the magician Koryakin's island. For instance, a very comic and rather sloppy meal carried by the bouncing and invisible dufflepuds, or the table settings and the food which appeared instantaneously for Lucy at a command from Koryakin. Before that, in the first 9 chapters of the book, the only food described has been a list of provisions stored below deck on the ship, all very wholesome and very ordinary and unmagical. And during the great storm, nothing could be cooked, and after it, rationings imposed. Rationing was something that Lewis knew all about, of course. Most of the Narnia books were written during wartime rationing in Britain, which didn't end until 1954. And a lot of the food he describes in the books would often have been quite mouth-watering to his readers. At the time, he wrote a lot of very exuberant thank you letters to friends in America who quite often sent him cakes and hams and other goodies. The further east they sail in The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, the more magical things become, until on Ramandu's island, on Aslan's table, is the most splendid banquet of all, with its exotic meats and pies and fruits, and it's replenished every sunset. The table was set there by Aslan for travellers coming close to Aslan's country, a sign and a foretaste of heaven's banquet to come. There's also maybe a communion table. Ramandu's daughter asked the travellers, "Why do you not eat and drink?" which recalls Jesus saying, "Take and eat, drink," at the Last Supper. And there is this strange relic of the stone dagger which the witch had used to kill Aslan in the centre of the table, which links it to the stone table right back in The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, and makes it a kind of altar of remembrance. Lewis bemoaned the loss in acuteness of his senses as he got older. What a comparatively tasteless thing an egg or a strawberry is now, he said, in his 50s. In the last battle in the new Narnia, or in other words, the new earth, the new heaven, he tries to describe the indescribable taste of the fruit of trees, so lovely they can hardly believe it's meant for them. In a way, the most miraculous meal in The Voyage of the Dawn Treader was the one provided right at the end by the lamb, which is Aslan, or Christ himself, and it's fish roasted over a fire on the seashore at the world's end. And the lamb says to them, "Come and have breakfast." And it's meant, and Lewis confirmed this in a letter, it's meant to remind us of Jesus on the shore of Galilee after the resurrection. At the very edge of the Narnian world, Aslan begins to appear more like Christ as he is known in this world. Hence the lamb. Hence the breakfast, like at the end of St. John's Gospel. And it was the most delicious food they had ever tasted. Perhaps one day when we arrive in his country, in the new earth, the new heaven, we too will hear Jesus say to us, "Come and have breakfast." And then perhaps most fully we'll taste and see that the Lord is good, as the Old Testament songwriter said. In the meantime, I'm going to have toast for tea.